Yeah, also a very warm welcome from my side. Great to be here. Room full of experts, knowledgeable people. So I'm looking forward for these 2 days to exchange with you, to discuss with you. And what I would like to do today is to bring a few thoughts on what really means resilience from our perspective. I will not give you a blueprint how to solve the challenges which we have, but at least I will give you some thoughts where we think you should work on, where we are currently working on, and I will also share some examples which from our perspective are helpful in order to address the topic. I will talk about 4 topics. First of all, what is, from our understanding, resilience? And what are the challenges? Why are we talking about that? The second topic is what are, from our perspective, the key success factors if you really want to into a professional resilience management process. There are a few things which you have to consider. The third thing, and this is the title of the presentation, is the specific aspect of a data-driven approach. This is only one aspect of resilience management, but this is what I would like to do, a deep dive to share with you what we are doing and what are the prerequisites of a data-driven approach. And then for sure we will actually have a short summary. As Otto mentioned, I will invite him to at least share also some thoughts on the topic of a digital twin, which is an important part of it, so therefore he will support me in this area. When we talk about resilience, there are different definitions. What is resilience? Resilience, from our understanding, is the capability of a system, after it has been hit by certain events, to bounce back in a stable environment, in a stable condition, if even better than it was before. This is our understanding of resilience. And based on this definition, we actually started in the Robert Bosch GmbH to think what are the challenges actually which we all in supply chain management have to face. And going back 3-4 years, we had a big crisis in the automotive business. Some of you which are from the automotive business know these events. Mainly I'm referring to the semiconductor crisis, which basically kept us busy for almost 2 years. To give you kind of an idea, which colleagues which are not from automotive, Bosch alone spent more than 1 billion euros on actually managing this crisis, and more than 2,000 people were working in different task forces. And this was basically the starting point for us to really start to rethink what do we have to do in order to reorganize our resilience management and to actually also bring us into a more stable conditions. When you look at supply chain, risks and uncertainties is one of the key topics which we have today. Other topics which we are facing is for sure a fast change of customer and market expectations. In the automotive business, we are in the middle of a transformation from combustion engine to electrification. When you go to China, you see this transformation live. In Shanghai, I was last week in Shanghai, almost all the cars on the streets are electrified cars. And this is a big change in terms of the setup of our supply chains. So big changes. For sure, data analytics and AI will drive changes also in this environment. We see big potential in the area of supply chain for applying AI and data analytics. Also here I will share some insights with you. End-to-end process digitalization, a key prerequisite for supply chain management of our next level. So also here we will take a look what Bosch is doing in order to address those topics. And for sure, the lack of experts, all of us, I think, are suffering because talents are rare and it's difficult to actually bring the right people on board. So also this is something which we have to consider if we will look from a holistic point of view on those topics. As I said, when we look back, we learned that risks are becoming the new normal. Otto mentioned the current global interruptions due to new legislation, due to the ideas the Trump administration have, which we don't know yet what it really means for us in supply chain. The markets are changing dramatically, shifting from combustion engine to electrification. The expectation of the customers are completely different. 5 years or 10 years ago, we had our traditional customers like BMW, Mercedes. We knew them, we knew their expectations. Today, we have a much broader customer base with complete different expectations. A company like BYD has different expectations than our traditional customers. And we as OE supplier, as one of the biggest in this market, we have to actually address those topics. And beside that, for sure, we have the well-known risks like earthquakes, hurricanes, things like that. And this becomes more and more the new normal. So we have to adjust our strategies, we have to adjust our processes, and this is actually, or was the starting point why we said we need to set up this topic in a different way. When you look at resilience management, there are a few things which you have to consider from our perspective. First of all, it's a complex setup. If you talk about resilience, you're not just talking about IT system. You're not just talking about changing your processes. It's a multi factor which is included in there, and you have to look at these topics from different angles. Two things which I would like to address today is, first of all, the strategic desire. For me, an important part, because if you as an organization wants to enter into resilience management, you have to include that in your strategy. Don't start if the organization is not convinced that this is an important part of your management setup. The second topic which I will talk today is about the data-driven approach which we are following, so we'll do that deep dive on that. And for sure there are other topics, like the end-to-end approach, also the way how we work together in the organization. Resilience management is driving us towards a different way of working together. Organizational aspects have to be considered. Functional setup of organizations are not anymore the way to go. Here we're looking more for radical collaboration in our organization, different setups in HR teams and HR networks. So also these, if you want to enter in that, you have to think about that. How do we address the strategic desire in our area of responsibility? First of all, make sure that resilience becomes part of your strategy. You have to communicate to your organization that resilience is a strategic playing field for you if you as a company wants to enter into that. Why do you have to do it? At the end of the day, you need to convince your organization that they really support this approach. So therefore, this is how we actually integrated resilience into our mission, vision statement. And this is for us and was for us the starting point to also explain to the organization, why do we have to do that? The second topic is, how do you translate now this vision and mission into concrete operational topics? And here we use our strategy approach to come from a vision or mission into defining our key enablers. And if you look at those key enablers, coming from a vision and mission, you have to translate, and this is what we did, into concrete fields of actions which you want to work on. We have defined 7 of these fields. You see collaboration, you see organizational impacts, and at the end of the day, you have to make sure that supply chain and supply chain resilience activities are ending up in a kind of measurable KPIs. What is the contribution of resilience to the business results? And this is very important, because at the end of the day, this is also when you discuss with your board, why are we doing that? At the end of the day, the guys want to know what is the positive impact on our business. So you have to make it measurable. And this is also one thing and one step which we are doing now. Make your resilience activities measurable and actually make sure that you understand the impact on your business results. Very important. And we do that via our KPIs. You see here our key logistic KPIs or supply chain KPIs. should be well known to you guys. And we have introduced a new one, which is the resilience score. And this is important because this is also the way how you start to really integrate that into your management process, make it measurable. Now let's take a look at what is a data-driven approach in resilience management. And I want to actually highlight a few topics which from our experience, from our understanding are important if you enter into this topic. First of all, the digital supply chain twin. If you want to start with these kind of activities, you have to think about how to actually develop and implement a digital twin of what you are doing. And Otto will also show you some thoughts how you can do that, but this is the prerequisite for everything. You need to talk about data management. Many of the activities which we have started 3-4 years ago failed because our data were not correct. Either they were missing or we had incorrect data. And specifically in the supply chain area, you create a lot of data. The worst thing what you can do is use this data in the wrong way. If you don't have correct data, it's difficult. So think about how you actually maintain your data which you need in your supply chain approach. Then the topic of an end-to-end approach, very important also for us. How do you actually link the entire value stream or supply chain in a digital environment? Also here I will show you a few examples how we actually do that. And then we need to rethink the way how we actually handle our business, our working processes. AI and data analytics will dramatically change the way how we work in the future. And this is also part of the strategy which we are actually following. But in terms of a digital twin, I would like to hand over to Otto because he has actually done some fundamental work on how to create a digital twin, what means a digital twin, and I would like to ask him also to share a little bit with you what his thoughts are about how to actually handle a digital twin in this environment.
Thank you, Winfried. I guess the microphone is not on use. So then I go. It's working for the recording the speakers. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good that you mentioned that. Okay, if I'm talking now about the digital twin. Digital twin is also one of the buzzwords. Many talk about it. If you look what is there is still many times Excel. So based on this one, if I start with the physical production infrastructure, which data are there which we can use? And I mentioned I did in the insurance industry supply chain risk management approaches for 17 years. My job was to go to the customer and ask him, can you explain me your value chain? And I was asking this in the 21st century. I thought, hey, Otto, this is not the right thing to do. Where is the data which we can use? And there is more and more data which you can use. There is not so much data which you need to have. And even if we are talking about data, this is just one enabler. Afterwards, there is much more than data, but without data, you have difficulties to understand where to look. And that's why I make this small contribution here. Many, I would say, all of the larger organizations have a planning team who does based on bills of materials and production capacity planning, all of these kind of things. This is, I wouldn't call this a digital twin. This is data which we use. If we use it for SNOP, IBP purposes, I would say the data quality is even such that it's of good quality. Not all the data in the SAP systems are of that quality. I would say there are too many data which you would like to get rid of. But there is data available which you can use as a starting point. And I would say for supply chain resilience, I would say this is a good starting point where to get a transparency into your supply chain. You can then still make much more if you have more data, but this is a starting point which I don't see implemented where I probably would like to see it implemented. If you have this kind of a, do I have a, no. If you see this, I have here the production capacities. This is a very basic model of the production infrastructure. With that one, you can also understand which are your critical production infrastructures. Also, this one I see in many corporations, this is not clear in the organization what this is. I guess to have a certain understanding, are you working on a critical piece? Are you working on a less critical piece? In supply chain resilience, this is of utmost importance. Then if you're talking about, okay, what could happen? If we take a simple example for visualization purposes, a company, one side goes out, what will be the impact on the supply chain? Sorry for this one. What will be the impact? How costly is that? These are scenarios. Many of us have already scenario building capabilities. I guess to bring that scenario building capability back, the microphone is also back, to leverage this scenario building capability to understand where are your vulnerabilities in the organization. Based on this one, you will be then able to understand how to build resilience. I have put here down the cost in the value chain, the risks in the value chain. We have probably reduced the cost in the value chain and not realized that we're moving up. We need to find this one here, this sweet spot. And I would say this is also a measure for all the vulnerabilities. You need to understand how far you need to go. And this not just in one business unit. You need to have that on a global scale. I guess this transparency is a basic element. Of course, all this data-driven, this is just an enabler. There are many more capabilities. You need to do supply chain risk management. You need to have a basic comprehensive supply chain management with the understanding of the critical elements, not only in the organization, but also upstream in your value chain. Who knows that one? Then also, supply chain risk management has elements of information management. If we just talked about which tier to go up, you need to understand which tier you need to go up and which one you should not go up because it's too costly. Information management, in that sense, supply chain resilience segmentation is important that you know where to focus. Risk management, I mentioned, for instance, the natural hazards. We know so much about those. Do we use those? If you go into risk management, how do you deal with uncertainties? This is also a little bit capability you need to have to be able to implement that correctly. Talking about mitigations, how many times are we just focusing on safety stocks? This is too simplistic. We cannot do it in such a simple way to just go for safety stocks. There are different characteristics. We cannot afford to have so much safety stocks. It's not agile, it's not flexible. We need to bring in different elements where it's required, based on the requirements, because based on the characteristics of those mitigations. All this needs to be brought up in a comprehensive way. So, additional capabilities, how to do supply chain risk management. I guess this one is one element we need to have. You cannot change the organization from today to tomorrow. It's a journey. Typically, you start with resilience in procurement, but also your product design is an important element. Depending on your product design, you have a completely different task. Your network, these are all important elements. And I guess it's also in the sense of Winfried, that the last point, the cultural aspect, to bring resilience into the organization. If I look at today's organizations, many times siloed, then you're having your business continuity or risk management teams, they then almost like fight against each other. These different viewpoints, I guess it's an important element in resilience to not fight those viewpoints, but to find the solution for those viewpoints. So, summarizing my very short input, there are ways which you can build resilience on, the data elements, but there are much more elements which you need to consider. With that, I hand back to Winfried.
Also,
thank you
very much. So this was a little bit of an outside-in view on resilience topics, and let me go back one step. Yeah, as said, what is a digital twin? What makes a digital twin really for a company valuable? First of all, digital twin is a concept for data integration. So you collect all the data along the supply chain, integrate that into a structured database, and make this information available in a structured way. And you can imagine a company like Bosch is collecting billions of information across the supply chain every day. So you have to prepare also your infrastructure if you want to use a digital twin in your environment. And today we are in the happy situation that we have a daily update of our supply chain, of our global supply chain in our environment. And this is a great achievement. It gives a complete different transparency, and it also allows us to look at things completely different. For example, in the past, it took us almost 2 weeks to actually react to an impact. For example, if we had an earthquake or storm, to identify what are the critical components which we have to look at. Today, we do that within 20 minutes. So we have a complete picture of what is happening. And this is the prerequisite. So a very important topic. For sure, in this digital twin, also you should have your assets, the virtual representation of your assets like warehouses, things like that, that should be integrated. A digital twin asset is the prerequisite for AI and data analytics. You cannot actually drive data analytics without a digital twin. You need to integrate your process and your process landscape into this digital twin. At the end of the day, this is the base for our digitalization. And last but not least, if you go in this direction of a digital twin, think about the IT architecture. Digital twin usually requires huge resources. So we really had to also upgrade our infrastructure, our IT infrastructure with servers, things like that, to make this information available. And the next evolution step with AI even requires significant more resources in order to apply those things. So all these things, if you want to go in this direction, you have to think about. Now coming to the next topic of an end-to-end digitalization. Our experience is you have to look at your end-to-end digitalization from your supply base to your customers. If you want to create this digital environment, you need to have a strategy how to actually digitalize your entire supply chain information flow along your value chain. And here you see some examples what we at Bosch are actually doing in order to digitalize that, starting with the receiving area, where we have fully digitalized solutions. Meanwhile, so you don't have any kind of scanning solutions anymore. You do that with optical gates, things like that. This is the future. So you need to actually align here. Then we're heavily working on automated transportation solutions in our plants, replacing forklifts and making sure that the material flow on the shop floor is transparent. We are also now in the process of shifting our lean production environment, which was in the past driven by manual Kanban systems based on the Toyota production system, into a digital environment. Today we have our full production planning actually integrated into a digital tool. So all of those things are being done in a digital environment. And the same thing is then on the shipping side, the interface to our supplier, to our customers, very important. Also here, digitalization is the key, and our advice or our recommendation is, if you want to go in this direction, make sure that you have a sound and clear roadmap in place how you want to do that. It took us almost 5 years to come to this stage. But today, we have globally in all our plants this set up in place. And now we are connecting that also to S/4HANA, which is the next adventure which we have in front of us. But very important that you think about that. Also from our point of view, important, if you look at resilience, understand your business processes. business process along your entire business value chain. And we do that usually, or we did that in the past with our value chain approach. So we did value stream mapping, which comes out of the lean environment, a tool set which allows you to map your processes. Today, with our digital environment, we are in a good position to say we actually drive this transparency of our processes from a system side. This is also an important step. By doing that, we distinguish in our value stream view between source, make, and deliver. These are our three core value stream areas. And then it's important in a resilience approach that you identify areas of higher risk. So where in your value stream are areas of higher risk? For example, if you have a supplier, a single source supplier in China, for sure this is an area of higher risk. So you have to identify that. And you have to understand where along my supply chain or my value stream do I have areas for higher risk. Yeah? Same is in manufacturing processes. If you look at your manufacturing processes, you need to understand where do I have my equipment with the highest risk. For example, our oven, our heating oven, usually are an area where you have high risks, because if those ovens are down, the whole production process actually will stop. Yeah. Same is true on the customer side. If you have customers with a high volatility, this is an area of risk. You have to consider that in your resilience approach. So our recommendation is identify those areas, make them measurable, score them, yeah, to have an understanding how they are changing, and then actually with a mapping, identifying, and monitoring approach to drive transparency into this approach. This is a prerequisite if you want to enter into a data-driven approach. Data management, as I said, another important topic. Maintain your data. Think about how you actually maintain your data, how you ensure that you have healthy data, which are representing the reality. And the last thing which I want to share with you is a concept which we have developed, as we call it, AI-driven data resilience. Key principle is, as I said, make sure that your value stream, that you understand your value stream, that you measure your risks in the value stream, that you collect the data, and that with intelligent AI tools you identify where I have the biggest risk. Monitor those risks, and then with an event-based or alert-based working environment, make sure that the organization is aware if along this entire supply chain risk is fundamentally changing. And this is an approach which we are following now. And we have started to actually also think how we can actually integrate that into our system environment. Yes. So, as I said, from our perspective, these AI topics will allow us to enter into an alert or event-based working. The system is monitoring the entire setup and alerts if something is changing. We are entering also in a predictive or prescriptive environment. Today we are able to predict if an event happens. For example, if we have heavy flooding, we are able to predict that 3-4 days before actually something happens. And we also know which supplier is affected by that. Gaining 5 days in a situation like that is a huge advantage. So this is also something where we think prescriptive and also in a kind of predictive approach, and then for sure proactive problem solving. Don't wait until the event hits you. Make sure that you have scenarios in place and that you proactively address these topics. So let's skip that, because this is basically our idea of a scoring approach. I think you can also see that in. Let me summarize the topic of resilience end-to-end as we have discussed it now. First of all, resilience has become a competitive topic for the companies. You need to actually think about how you can use resilience in order to improve your competitiveness. Second, it has to be done end-to-end. Don't focus just on one area, because this is not enough. So think end-to-end from your supply base to your customers. Look at this topic holistic. You have to have the capabilities to manage that. So think about how you actually integrate that into your management processes. Who is responsible for this resilience topic? Also an important question. At the end of the day, somebody has to pay for mitigation measures. So you need to make sure that you understand who is actually in the company responsible for that at the end of the day. And for sure, it has to be an orchestrated enterprise. Build strengths, corporate resilience below silos is a key prerequisite for successful business in the future. And having said that, I'm open for questions. We can share a little bit more detail how we are doing things and what we are doing. But this is a big picture of a data-driven approach, how we understand it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Winfried. Thank you.